Hello, everyone, and happy Monday to everyone. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. I'm Nicole Harvick. I'm your host for the Change Podcast, Insights to Empowerment. And as always, we have amazing guests, and this day is no exception. Our guest today is a healer, he's a coach, he's an international speaker and a best-selling author, and his books address mental, emotional, and physical performance. So I want to welcome Kam Knight to our show today. Hello, Kam. How are you?
Thank you very much for that awesome introduction. I am doing fantastic. How are you?
You know what? I'm very good, and I'm really excited to hear about your journey because as I'm looking at this, I'm like, Kam is living my life. So, with being a coach, being a speaker, best-selling author, what was your catalyst to all of that?
All right. So there were two main catalysts. First is as far back as I can remember, I've had an unquiet mind. In fact, I actually remember having my first thoughts. I was jumping on the bed with my sister. We were giggling and laughing, and all of a sudden, thoughts began appearing, and it freaked me out. I didn't know where the thoughts came from, why they were there, and wanted nothing more than for them to leave. And then unfortunately, they didn't leave because as I was growing up, my thoughts raced intensely. Before I could focus on one thought, they were jumping to the next and next and next. And when people hear this, they immediately think ADHD. And I say, I wish it were only that simple, as my emotions were cycling intensely. One minute I'm feeling one way, and another minute completely different. Some days I was lethargic, barely able to get out of bed, and other days hyper and out of control. And when people hear this, they think bipolar, and I say, I wish it were only that simple too, as I was changing states constantly. Like I often remember seeing the dazed look on people's eyes when one of these shifts would happen, as they were so confused by how one minute I was acting one way and another completely different, as if I changed into another person. And what I didn't realize at the time is that I have extreme sensitivity to processed food. So anything that's not whole or organic makes my thoughts, my mind race, my emotion cycle, and floods me with intense amounts of energy and electricity. And so imagine more or less giving a child, the way I describe it is like processed food is like a hard drug to me. So imagine giving a child a hard drug 3 meals a day in and day out, week after week, month after month, for years and years. So by the time I was an adult, I was practically like out of my mind. And so I went on a long journey of healing to get to this point where I could stand before you, talking to you intelligently and coherently. So that's one part of it. And the second part of it is after graduating college, I got laid off of my first job. And it took me a lot of time, effort to find my second job. I went through over 15 interviewing 15 companies, um, even more than that in terms of interviews, and talking to even more recruiters and sending out even more resumes. And when I finally landed my job, I had 3 weeks before starting, and I was so nervous. And I was in Barnes and Nobles, and I was in the audio section. And back then, the audios were in tapes. In fact, you know, these were some of the tapes I
I,
initially
I
got.
remember. I do.
Yeah. And so I remember seeing a couple tapes that were saying like overcome fear or remove anxiety. And I'm like, I need that. And what they turned out to be actually affirmation tapes. So they had a self-talk script as well as guided visualizations. And surprisingly, they worked. And as I got into, few years later, I started reading personal development books like Chad Helmstetter's What to Say When You Talk to Yourself, as well as Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. And I realized like, wow, this was actually a thing. And it was talked about as far back as when personal development started with the trailblazers like Napoleon Hill. And that really just got me on the journey because, one, I was looking for healing and, uh, um, you know, understanding what's going on internally. And two, um, these things started coming, and I'm like, oh wow, there's more to us humans than meets the eye. Because on the surface, you would just think, oh, I'm here, I think, I do stuff, and that's it. But then there's all these like intricate and complex processes going on underneath. And how I got into writing is, at the time I felt like there was a lot of the content out there was very basic and surface level, and I felt like there was a lot missing, and I thought I could fill in the gaps, and I did, and it was well received. And I just been kind of on that path, and as anybody knows, when you stay on the path, you just go deeper and further into it. So now I have done what I have, traveling to over 100 countries, written over a dozen books, and here talking to you.
That's wonderful. And you brought up the ADD, and
Yeah.
I'm just very, very curious. Are any of your books about misdiagnosing
Yeah.
children because we're not addressing our food problem?
Yeah, I think that's a foundational piece to it. So when anyone talks about ADD or ADHD, there's so much around it. But I think at the very core, it really stems from two things. It's our diet and it's our media consumption. And my concentration book, I don't know if it shows up in the view, goes really deep into it. In fact, it's, I think, one of the deepest works in terms of concentration, because I went way beyond what a lot of people are talking about in terms of just removing distractions. Because what people don't realize is that we have a lot of interactivity. We have thoughts running, we have emotion cycling, we have bodily and physical sensations, and we also have mental images in the way of memories and daydreams. And all of that activity competes with our attention. And the more riled up that activity gets, the harder it is for us to focus and stay focused. And there's a lot of things that, stimulate that activity. And I think the two biggest contributors are diet and media consumption.
And it's so funny that you mentioned this. We are so on the same page because I don't watch. I'll watch a little bit of TV if I'm
Yeah.
sitting down to eat. I don't watch news. I don't watch. I don't let my body take on any of that.
Yeah.
I really don't, because it just affects your nervous system.
It
And the
does.
food, I'm to a point where I haven't eaten meat in about 10 years. I just sat at a table one
Wow.
day. I'm like, I can't do it. It
Yeah.
wasn't like, anything other than my body said no, and I listened to my body. And I'm to a point now where if I process food, I can taste chemicals in it. That's
You
all I
can. Yeah.
I can taste chemicals in the food.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, what am I going to eat? So
Yeah.
it becomes kind of hard to structure a diet around what's in our grocery stores.
It's super difficult, Nicole. It's so difficult. And there's a really important reason people need to understand why is that we are becoming more health conscious. We are starting to finally realize, make the connection. Oh, wow, what I put in my body has a big effect, not just on my physical health, but as well as my mental and emotional health. And so people are wanting to become more conscious and make better choices. But unfortunately, the food industry is getting ever more clever and deceptive in their marketing, making things seem healthy when they're not. And so people think that they're paying more, or they're eating healthy and they're paying more for it, but they're actually probably eating worse or even more bad than they were. And, normally in these things, I would give out my resource, but since we're already on the topic, because it's so bad and there's so much misinformation, I did create a guide that people can go to. It's mindlily.com/health. It's over 60 pages to help people understand how to think about what they're putting inside their body. It covers everything from water to salt to groceries, where to find groceries, because unfortunately, even the health food stores, although they are better, they're still not good. And, the rice, the pasta, everything. And it also has links to what I think is the best option. And yeah, so they can just grab that for free.
Well, you know, that's my next step when we get off this podcast. I'm going to go find that as well. But you know,
Yeah,
I found something really interesting a couple weeks ago. I went to a farmer's market. And
yeah,
I live in South Carolina. There's a lot of farming here.
yeah.
And the food that was displayed had the store stickers on them.
I know.
It's how frustrating is that, right?
Yeah. So in my book, I actually talk about how to discern what's good and what's from bad. So the most obvious is to read the ingredient labels. It's crazy. Most people, especially the people who think they're eating healthy and clean, they don't actually look at the ingredient labels. And I
Oh,
say the front of the package is just an advertisement and they can say whatever they want in the front. Really, there's no liability to the company for what's in the front. There are liabilities in the back. So you have to look at the ingredient list and see what's actually in there. And that's going to be a good telltale sign of what is healthy and not. And I go really detail in that guide of what to look out for and how to spot things that are kind of manipulative and things of that nature. But then there is a challenge when you do go to a farmer's market because they don't have ingredient labels. And I also talk about in the guide how to know if the produce you're getting is actually good and how to ask the right questions. Because the first thing I'll ask a farmer is, hey, are you organic? And most often they'll say, we're not organic, but we have organic practices. And I'm like, tell me about your practice. And then they'll say things like, oh, we don't spray or use herbicides. I'm like, okay, cool. What kind of compost do you use? And one of the things I learned from Elon Musk that he said, I know not everyone loves him, but this is something that was really important, is people who are passionate and really understand things at a deep level, when you ask them a question, they can go several layers deep and they really enjoy talking about it. People who don't really know what they're doing or have much experience, they can't go deep. So you'll know right away if you're dealing with a farmer who is conscious just by asking the question. Because if you just say, oh, what kind of practices do you have? The real farmers who are really conscious, they will talk your ears out. They're like, oh, this is what we do. This is how we do this. This is where we get this our compost from. This is how we put nutrients in here. These are some of the challenges we face. And there is a give and take because farming is a lot of work. And sure, not everything they do will be perfect, but if I can tell that they're actually thinking about all those things, then I'm like, okay, this is a person to buy from. A
and
person, go
yeah,
ahead.
we have to remember that it's just the same for us. For you talking about that, you're passionate. You could
Yeah,
probably talk for days. I'm
yeah.
passionate about healing. Don't get me started or you never get rid of me, right?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, I tell people I'm like a fire hose. Like, I can just spew information, and as you can tell, diet is a really important topic for me. So I can spew a lot. So please stop me if I am just rambling. But
You're
I
no,
just,
you're giving out some amazing information that people don't stop to realize that we've got one body. We've
yeah,
got one body. What are you putting in it? Right down
yeah.
to your water. You
Right
know,
down to your water, yeah. And so I'm not too far away from you, and luckily, I recently moved, and I have well water, which is I mean, it's amazing to get water from the ground and not through the 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 system.
systems. Yeah.
Yeah, because what's also important to understand is I had a friend who used to work for the water waste company. And what she told me is that the system is not designed to filter out the stuff that is going into the water these days. A lot of people are taking a lot more meds, a lot more pills, and it's getting flushed into it. And the waste system is only designed to filter out waste, but these other chemicals are still in there, so our water is actually getting worse. And I
Oh,
highly recommend people filter their water, but unfortunately there's a lot of water filter companies claiming to say that their filter is the best, where they barely filter anything. In fact, the more popular filters like Brita and Pure barely do anything. And if I were to recommend a very affordable filter, it would be the zero water filter because it filters out all inorganic compounds. And it's the only filter that comes with a tester, so you can actually test the water.
Ooh.
Yeah, only filter. So they stand behind their thing, and I used them for a long time. There is challenges with filters, especially good filters, because they'll remove even the good stuff, which is the
Oh, okay.
electrolytes. So if
Yeah.
you're gonna use zero lot water, it's important to add back a pinch of sea salt and some lemon to get the electrolytes back. So
That's very interesting because I listen to my body very well, and I'm
yeah,
always in need of salt.
yes,
And I haven't been there in about 6 months, but in South Carolina, I think it's either Orangeville or Blackville, there is a place called God's Healing Acre. Water
um,
comes right out of the ground. And I used to go there once a month and get all my water. And it was everyone would look, they're like, oh, there's dirt in it. Well, it's from the ground, it's
yeah,
primary water. This is what you should be drinking.
yeah, exactly.
I had some surgeries, couldn't get back up there. And I'm telling you, the water I drink now, I'm always thirsty. It does not quench my
It
thirst.
doesn't, yeah,
It's dead water.
yeah. So two things I want to say about that. It's likely because it doesn't have the nutrients. So the reason when we put something in our body, it doesn't quench our thirst or hunger, it's because it lacks the nutrients that your body is seeking. And so then it wants more and more to fill that nutrient need. And this is playing out in our food because majority of the food out there is almost nutrientless.
Oh,
It has a macro, which is carbs, fats, and proteins, but it doesn't have the nutrients and the vitamins and all of that stuff. And so, because it doesn't have any of that, the body doesn't ever feel full or satisfied because it's trying to get that uh, nutrients. So, if a person finds themselves not being able to stop eating, or when they sit down to eat, they just like keep stuffing their mouth, it's because majority of the stuff has no nutrients.
oh,
And if you actually get nutrients dense stuff, you'll find that you naturally feel full a lot quicker and you don't feel this need to eat fast. And you don't have to wait until your stomach is exploding before you stop yourself from eating. And
wow.
so that's really important too.
That's amazing information. I didn't even realize that. But I
Yeah.
know that you're also an international speaker
Yeah.
and you've been to like 100 countries.
Over 100 countries now. Yeah.
Is this what you speak about when you are on a speaking tour?
So the diet part, I don't really talk too much about. So I used to do a lot of mental performance, and that's what my books are about. I've got
Okay.
books on speed reading, memory, the concentration book I told you, and other books in the area of mental performance, because I told you I had mental emotional challenges,
Mhm.
and so I thought it was really, it's important to get a control on my mind. And then once I did that, I started moving into talking about a concept I call internal resistance, which answers a question I had my whole life, which is why is it if I want to do something, I know what to do, I know how to do it, and I have the motivation and desire to do it, but for one reason or another, I can't or don't do it. And I realized there's a part of our brain designed to hold us back, and it's actively working to hold us back. And I call that resistance, and it's a brick wall that we hit anytime we want to do something, but we can't no matter how much we want to do it. And that's what something I was doing for like the last 5 years. But now I moved into a technique that I have developed to help people quickly overcome trauma, PTSD, bad breakup, even loneliness. And like I said, I had the emotional challenges. And so once I was able to heal myself through food, I still had I sought to remove all the damage that was done. So I did it with this technique, and that's what I kind of do now is talk about this technique. But this book on health, I don't really talk too much about it. I just wrote it because there is such bad information. And a lot of people think they are eating healthy when they're not. Like, I can't tell you how many times I have people who put a lot of conscious effort and they tell me they're very clean. And I could just look at their body and know that they're not. And instead of spending all this time talking about like how to think about the food and diet because it's a lot.
Mhm.
I put together this guide, and so far it's already come out to about 60 pages. And by the time I'm finished, it should be about 100 to 150 pages because I also want to talk about not just what we put in our body, but also what we put on our body,
Oh,
like the lotions and soaps and sunscreens. 'Cause-
sunscreen.
yeah, and that's all riddled with chemicals. And I want to not only have them understand to what's healthy, but give them options that's going to be better than what they're likely putting in now. And so that I just offer as a free gift because it's a fundamental, like we talked about at the beginning. It's a baseline. Like every other challenge stems from that, and if we can handle that, it'll be a lot easier to take care of the rest.
Yeah, and when you talk about sunscreen, I haven't used it for years.
Yes, neither have
I
I.
use the sun to heal me,
Yes, yes,
and I live by the beach, and every summer, because I'm down by Myrtle Beach, it's just
yeah,
packed with families. And I watch these parents just lather their kids in
I know.
and I just want to, no, no, stop,
Yeah,
zinc oxide, maybe, but
yeah.
then if, but why is no one reading the ingredients of food or what we put on your body? What do you think the block is there?
I have no idea, Nicole. So for me, I had this sensitivity. Like I said, it was like a hard drug to me, and it was an intense experience growing up. I'm way beyond having an ADD child or bipolar. Even if you combine the two, like I was pretty bad. And I was on a journey of healing, and when I realized the extent of my that I was sensitive to food, it still took me 10 years to realize the extent of it. Meaning, at first I thought it was fast food, and I cut that out. And then I thought it was fast casual, like Kosai or Panera. But although it's better, it's still not good. So I cut that out. And then I thought it was even the expensive casual, like Olive Garden and Red Lobster. And no, they're just as bad. And then I thought, okay, maybe I'll eat by going to the grocery store. So I was eating my own stuff, but most grocery stores may have just a few items that are edible. And then I started doing just Trader Joe's and Whole Foods. And although it's better, it's still far from good. And so this is a good time to bring up this concept. A lot of times people think that they're not eating as bad as the people around them. So they think they're eating good. And that's a really bad fallacy. Like better doesn't mean good. Like you really have to get back to the basics of farmers markets and eating the way we were back in hunter gatherer days, meaning
Yes.
more whole organic foods. But to answer your question, um, it took me a long time to get to the point of realizing just how sensitive my body was and how far I needed to go. And near the end of that journey, I was really upset because I couldn't go out and eat at restaurants. I wasn't able to partake in a lot of the stuff that the average person was doing. And I was kind of angry because I felt like I couldn't socialize, and I couldn't do a lot of the things others were doing. And I felt left out a lot. And eventually I got to a point where I came to acceptance. And then I started seeing actually as a positive because of this condition. I'm forced to eat healthy. But if I didn't have this, it would be really hard, Nicole. It would be really hard to do it. It would be really hard to maintain it because it's everywhere and everyone's doing it. And if you want some sort of the average or normal social life, you're going to have to partake because you can't go to social gatherings, Christmas parties, company things without people shoving this stuff down you. And
Always. And
yeah,
oh, take more, and then you're rude if you don't take it.
yeah, exactly.
Just, I just
There's
want
a,
to be healthy.
and then there's always comments like you're too strict or you're too extreme and things like that. And I tell people, I'm actually normal. What you guys are doing is extreme. So to answer that question, it's and I put it in my concentration book. There was one, was it a scientist or expert? He said, our issue with food and diet isn't actually a food problem, it's a social problem
Mm,
because it's so common and it's so prevalent. it's hard to go. The brain makes it really hard to go against the grain. It'll make us do something destructive just so we can stay in community and around others, than to do something on our own, and that's healthy. Which is why cigarette companies, their marketing is so like ingrained in trying to be cool and this and that, because the brain will pick unhealth as long as we feel connected over unhealth. So that's what makes it challenging. But the actual ingredients labels, like even my sisters, who I have tried to help them with their kids, like you could see the challenges they were having. A lot of anger issues, a lot of like emotionals. And I'm like, diet's really important. And the only thing I ever asked them to do was just read the ingredient labels before you
Oh,
buy stuff. That's the only thing.
it's easy. So
And
easy.
neither did it. Like my younger sister did a better job of eating healthy, but again, she just assumes that she's shopping at a healthy grocery store that it's going to be healthy. And I'm like, do you read the ingredient labels? And I've been telling her for several years, and it's just, I don't know. Like there's nothing I can do that, uh, nothing I can say to help people understand how important it is to just whatever you pick up, turn it around, look at the ingredient labels, and just make sure it's as little ingredients as possible. They're more whole and whatever, but they just people
Yeah.
don't want to do it.
And you know, I'm real, I do turn mine over, and if it has a list like this, I
Yeah,
just toss it. I'm like, I'm not going to eat all that. But
exactly.
I have a question for you. In traveling to 100 countries, what country would you say is the most healthy if you could put a label on a country?
So this is really sad because, I've been to essentially half the countries in the world. I've been to first world, developing countries that were isolated for a long time for whatever reasons, and they're just starting to open up. And it's sad because, you know, the US is looked at as uh, with a lot of authority and status. And so people just naturally assume what people are doing in the US, they know what they're doing. And so a lot of our diet is kind of getting spread out. People are picking it up as like that's a status thing to do, like chewing the gums and eating stuff from wrappers and stuff like that. In fact, in a lot of countries, these are seen as luxury items. If you go to certain second, third world countries, McDonald's is actually more expensive than the alternative. And McDonald's isn't like how it is set up here. It actually is set up more like a fine dining place. Yeah.
McDonald's.
Yeah.
Now that's
McDonald's and Burger
scary.
King. Yeah. It's scary. And it's actually 2 to 3 times more expensive than what they would eat locally. But because it's seen as high status, they think it's better and people think it's healthier. And unfortunately, it is really the unhealthiness is just like going everywhere. Like
It's
it's hard to
crazy.
find. Yeah, it's hard to
It's,
find.
ooh.
And yeah, and I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted
Oh,
to
no,
add.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I want
This is very interesting.
Yeah, one of the reasons I actually stopped traveling because I would have left because it was hard to find healthy food. Because here, at least in the U.S., there is a consciousness that's growing,
Mhm.
and there are places where you can get stuff that, well, by people who are very conscious, and it's easy. But there isn't that yet. So right now, the options aren't very good. Like there's some countries I can go to, there's really nothing I can eat. Like,
Wow.
yeah, everything is packaged. Um, if you wanted to buy water, because you can't drink out of the tap in a lot of countries, there the water bottle is either from Coca-Cola, Pepsi, or Nestle. Nestle tends to be a better option, but Coca-Cola and Pepsi, so Aquafina, Dasani, there's chemicals in it, and I could feel it. Like I could feel it in
You
my
can
body
smell
whenever.
them too.
Yeah. And unfortunately, like if I want to get if I want to get water in another country, some countries I can't even get healthy water.
Oh
I
gosh,
know
that's
it's sad.
crazy.
It's sad. It's
That
sad.
is crazy. Well, listen, we are out our time,
Thank you.
and this has been an amazing conversation. And I love that you're bringing awareness to this. I tell people, look at people on the beach in the 70s. Look at
Yes,
people on the beach today. Something's wrong. Something's
100%.
terribly
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah,
And no one, for me, it's like I want to be healthy. The older I get, I want to be more healthy.
yeah,
And there's just people disregarding
yeah,
a conversation like this. And
yeah,
so I'm very grateful for you to come on today and talk about it just in normal terms, not
yeah,
berating anyone, just stating facts
yeah,
that can't be disputed. So thank you so much for coming on today. You have been an amazing guest telling an amazing story, and I
yeah.
really appreciate you. And for our audience out there, I just want to tell you that in the description of this StreamYard, there will be links to find Cam. He's offered you an amazing free gift. Please take him up on that. I know I am. So, for everyone out there, thank you for being here today. Cam, thank you for being a wonderful guest.
Thank you very much, Nicole. I hope you all found the information helpful and interesting.
I did. Thank you
Yeah,
so much. Take
thank you.
care.
All right. Bye bye.